Hello, welcome everybody. It's another episode of Marcela Mores podcast. We're happy to continue to be healthy, and I know a lot of things are happening in the city of Halifax, Nova Scotia these days, but we're gonna get through this, as we have done. And big kudos to the local government, Nova Scotia Health, that have been doing the frontline workers that have been doing an amazing job at all the testing and COVID screening to keep us safe. So please follow the regulations, and it's a valuable thing to stay home, spending time with family. That's important. These days it's not are days to be reflecting about that, and not to be maybe accepting so many friends over. We have this technology, so make good use of it. And going back, today we have a very special guest. Is a very accomplished flutist, classically trained, and bringing to the world one of the finest connections to traditional music and early music. Her work covers everything from teaching music, arranging, composing. She's a band leader, entrepreneur, and research in music and environment and science. Please, let's welcome Jennifer Publicover. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Marcel.
How are you? We finally made it.
We finally made it on here. Yeah.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy that you have accepted this request to do a podcast. As I was saying, I've had you in my mind since I started before I started the program, because I think you have a lot to share, and your work is very, very interesting. And I think a lot of people everybody needs to know more about the musician, but behind the scenes, right? All the preps, all the research, the discipline. I think it's a beautiful journey to get to know the artists, the musicians like this. So just briefly, I know you've been very busy lately with your most recent work that you're going to be talking to us about, your traditional and early music school, your work as an educator, both in music and teaching at university level. So those are amazing topics that we're happy to bring up with you today. Now, I wanted to start with an open question. If you could please tell us about you and your journey from a classical trained musician, and how was your path to tap into the fascination of traditional music. I know you cover a wide spectrum, from Scottish, Irish, Scandinavian, Spanish Celtic music, and more. Tell us about it.
Well, for one thing, thank you so much for asking me onto your podcast. It's a real pleasure and honor. I am classically trained, but even before that, I played by ear. When I was a kid, I didn't have financial access to music lessons. And so, but we had an old piano at home, and I used to play by ear. I would take pop songs that I heard on the radio and just figure them out on the piano and play them by ear. So playing by ear is a really natural thing for me. And then when I was a teenager, and I started to have some access to formal music playing, and both for the flute through the school system and private music lessons. And I was so, I guess, hungry for knowledge in that area. I wound up doing 9 levels of piano in 5 years, in the 5 years that I had piano lessons. And and so and I had taught myself how to read music, but I had to really work on the reading skills when I went when I prepared to go to university and actually study classical music, because in the classical music realm, reading skills are really important, and it wasn't quite emphasized so much to have such a good ear. But I studied the modern classical flute, orchestral flute, this
Nice.
thing here, in my undergraduate years at Mount Allison University. And then a number of years after that, I did a master's degree in performance at the University of Toronto. And I've lived in a bunch of different places. I grew up in Nova Scotia, but when I returned to Nova Scotia into the year 2000, that's when I started to branch into playing traditional music. And I was and still am a classical freelancer when those jobs are available, when there's not a pandemic.
Yes.
but like I say, 20 years ago, I started getting interested in playing traditional music on a different kind of flute, which is this one, on an Irish flute, which has no keys. It's made out of wood. And when I did that, I found that in my classical training, let's put the flute back. In my classical training, it's wonderful playing in an orchestra. You're surrounded by so much musical power, and just to be a part of that is an amazing thing. But there is something about that doesn't tap into some other areas of your musicality or your musicianship. And I found that when I got interested in playing traditional music through the session scene and through some folk music festivals and so on, where I came into an artistic area where actually having a good ear and being able to pick up things by ear and to play from memory a lot, that was actually valued in that environment in a way that it wasn't necessarily so much in the classical realm. And because I, as a kid, played a lot by ear, I was self-taught, it felt like coming home.
Yes.
For me. It was really quite nice. And I've met so many wonderful people through it. And as I learned to speak through that musical vocabulary, I gradually became a professional in that area as well. And I'm a freelancer, but also I play in various groups. One of those groups that you're familiar with, which is Papilio. And playing, music from all sorts of different musical traditions, whatever kind of fits on an Irish flute, whether it be Irish or Cape Breton or Scottish or Scandinavian or Galician or French Canadian or
Galician,
whatever. Yeah. And also, some writing and arranging and that sort of thing. And it's given me a lot of joy. And so there's that. And then about 10 years ago, 9 or 10, I guess at this point, I branched out once again into early music. And so that involves playing a flute like this.
Interesting. What kind of flute is that one?
This is a Baroque flute. It has
Baroque flute. A
Baroque flute, yeah. You notice, let's see, has just one key. And otherwise, it has just the 6 holes here.
And is that one in the normally a classical flute? You got the foot in that reaches the C, but the Irish flute it goes into a D as well as the Irish, right?
Same as this one is. Yeah. And I'll get actually into the difference between the flutes because it's actually kind of interesting.
Awesome, yeah.
But just to say that just me and my internal restlessness, I wanted to keep exploring. So I branched out into that as well, like about 9-ish years ago. And each of these flutes has a different fingering system, so you have to learn almost a completely different muscle memory. It's like,
Interesting.
yeah, it's like, I don't know, I suppose learning different branches of a language family, like learning Spanish and Italian and French. It's kind of like that. Like they're all Latin-based languages, and this is all flutes that you play this way. But they have very different expressive voices, and the fingering systems are quite different. So just, if you would like me to explain the difference between the flutes.
Yeah, I would like that because, well, as you know, I've known you for a few years now, and in my first years here in Canada, I started tapping in more opening my interest more to flute playing, because at the time, a few years ago, I played a little bit of guitar, but mostly trained in northern Spain music, playing the Spanish bagpipes, both the Galician and the Asturian bagpipes. And there's like the suite recorders that you play along with, that sometimes they made them specifically to fit the fingering of the Galician pipes or the Asturian pipes, which is, as you were saying, it's a different language. It's got like cross fingering, and it's very interesting. And I just I found, obviously, I felt a lot of attraction with Irish music and the flute playing, and you were one of my the first local people that I reached out to, hungry of questions to learn more about that. And I appreciate a lot of those early tips in the flute embouchure that I continue to try to keep improving. Yeah, I became fascinated by that as well. And I read a little bit about the differences in between the flutes and how the wooden flute evolved into the modern metal flute system, and all those ramifications. Uh, I read a little bit about that, but yeah, if you have a little bit of a sum up to
Oh,
do.
just, yeah, very short, like 1 minute kind of thing.
Yes.
So so the Renaissance was the 1500s, and the Baroque period is in the 1600s and 1700s. And at that time, in Europe, we had what was called simple system flutes, whereby you just had the 6 holes here, and the Brogue flute has 1 key. And because you just have these 6 fingers and the key, and that's it. And there are a lot of sharps and flats that you have to do a lot of complicated cross fingerings for. But it gets all the sharps and flats, but they're not a completely even in tone. Some of them are a lot softer than others. Some of them are a little sharper, a little flatter than others. But that was the instrument that was prevalent at the time. And so, like Bach or Handel or Vivaldi or any of these people would have written for this instrument. And it has sort of a dark kind of a sound, very kind of mellow sound. And I'll just toot a couple notes just to show you. So. So it's sort of a dark, warm sort of sound. But then composers started writing music whereby you had to have all your sharps and flats in sort of an even intensity. They had to be all really strong, and they had to be all exactly placed where you wanted them to be in the tuning system, in a modern tuning system, like a modern equal tempered tuning system. And so this flute was redesigned in the 1800s. And so they first of all, they started adding like little keys on either side of these holes. And that type of flute is actually the ancestor of the Irish flutes that we play today for traditional music. Mm-hmm. So that came from the 1800s. And then in the 1840s, there was a guy in Germany called Theobald Böhm who invented the modern key, whereby you no longer put your fingers exactly on the holes anymore. You have this key system in between, and the reason for that is they wanted, like I say, they wanted to have every note to be absolutely even and with really even tuning and so on. So they drilled holes in the size and in the place that they wanted for that. And if you couldn't possibly cover those holes with your fingers because they're too big and they're too spread out. So that's what the key system is for, to be able to close those holes.
But also the bore, there's a difference in the bore too, right? Because the Irish and Baroque flute, they have like a more like a conical.
That's right.
Conical
they
bore,
have a
and this
taper.
one's taper, exactly. Versus this one is more cylindrical.
Cylindrical, yeah, and it's got a bigger, more powerful sound. I should actually probably turn the gain of my microphone down a little bit because you might be overloading here. My voice is a lot softer than my flute, so. So it's a stronger and brighter kind of a sound.
I wonder, it's so interesting. I wonder, like back in that time when this flute was the key flute, the metal flute was produced, how was the evolution of horns already happening? Because there were horns at the time already with some keys, right? I'm just trying to think if the inventor like borrowed some of the idea of the holes being played, I don't know, in early clarinets, if that's accurate to say, and then maybe I can implement this system into the flute. And it was kind of like a borrowing the idea.
It was actually a whole phenomenon that was going on in Europe at that time, like in the 1830s and 40s. Like the concert halls just got bigger, and you needed to have more powerful instruments to fill up the sound. And so this actually was a change that happened through all the instruments. The violins got jacked up, so they had more tension in their strings so that they could carry farther. And this Boehm, Theobald Boehm, the fellow that designed the modern flute, he designed a whole bunch of other instruments as well, including the clarinet and oboe and bassoon, like all the woodwinds and so on. And the horn, what we call brass players these days. In the old days, they used to have pieces of tubing that they would stick in their horns to play in a certain key, and then to play in a different key, they take out that piece of tubing and stick another one in that's a different size. So they'd have these crooks, these pieces of tubing that they would put into their instrument. So then during this time in the 1840s, those instruments, instead of inserting the different crooks, they had the valves instead, already lined up with different crooks that were built right into the instrument. So then they could get all their chromatics as well. So this is a whole big instrumental revolution that took place in the 1800s. And the interesting thing about this with the flute is that so the old simple system flutes that had some keys added to them, but they were still just the bare holes, the 6 holes here on the top. Orchestral players were selling those and moving on to the new instruments, and they were selling them for cheap. And that's actually where the Irish flute tradition came about, because then people of limited means could actually purchase these instruments.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's when it took off.
Yeah, and so would that be a way of this like keyless instrument to spreading to other places, maybe not so fortunate economically at the time? That was the means. So interesting. So again, economy catches up with us.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, so traditional players and self-taught players and people who may or may not be able to read music and so on, but who are carrying these traditions along, including in places in Spain and France and Ireland and Scotland and so on. So yeah, and in North America too, as North America started to fill up with non-Indigenous people.
Interesting. But then it's got to be with the evolution towards the modern Irish flute. It's got to be they did some redesign in the size of the holes, and probably the how do you call the bore?
Yeah. I mean, modern Irish flute player makers, I should say, they take an old model and a replica of it, and they might do little things to soup it up here and there. The Irish flutes that I play on they don't have any keys added to them, but they are kind of souped up in a little in some ways that are not exactly traditional, but there are makers that stick really to the traditional models. And standard let me turn my game down again here so I don't shock you. Um, my standard D flute, Irish flute, for example, it has some extra holes in it and things like that. So I just got a really sort of earthy and
reverbing sound almost.
yeah, and so because I don't have all the, like, this instrument doesn't give me all the sharps and flats. It doesn't have keys on it, and the fork fingerings that don't really work on it very well. So if I want to play in other keys, I grab a different flute of a different size, which, for example, my wee little tiny F flute.
Oh.
I took this flute and I put it in the dryer and it shrank. Make sure I can cover the holes here. So it's like almost like a piccolo, but not quite. And nice. That flute was made locally by Chris Norman, and this is also a Nova Scotian flute made by Windward Flutes by Forbes Annual Christie on the South Shore. And it has a very low and kind of dark, mellow kind of sound. So they all kind of have a different character and they play in different keys.
Beautiful. And what wood is that one? What kind of wood?
Mopani.
Mopani. Oh, it's beautiful color. It's just...
Yeah, they're really pretty.
And I know from a little bit of experience playing different wooden instruments, not as vast as yours, but it has to do a lot with each wood will have its own properties and will have like slightly differences in the tone or the timbre of the instrument. So I find that also fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like you. Like the way I started with music was by ear, and I do wanted to bring that up again because I find it is a very solid foundation to have for music. Yes, it is extremely important, as you said, either for classical music or other styles of music to have the reading. But I give it as much as importance as to have a good ear, because I think it broadens the understanding of the music or the perception of the music. Maybe it allows creativity. From my formation in Spanish, Northern Spain Celtic music, that's one of the reasons of why there's so many versions of one tune, because the players, when they were traveling, they learned it by ear. And then because music was not regulated or like written so much at the time, they every time they retrieve the tune, they may come out with different variations that may not be intentional, but it's because that's the way they remembered it. And when studies
or they've put their own personal stamp on it, like with their own choice of ornamentation and the way they feel it rhythmically. Yeah, and that's kind of expected actually in that sort of an environment. Yeah,
I think it's kind of neat. I think that's one of the things that are the people that study folklore, that one of the things that they come out with, that that's what happened, like, as well as changing adding your own input, your own ornamentation. Sometimes you may not remember exactly, and then all of a sudden, like, part A changed a little bit. I just find that it just adds to the richness of it. But anyway, just a side way, because I really that was my basically the core of my formation. Then I learned some music theory and some reading, not extremely advanced for piano or different, or not fluent in different keys, but yeah, I think the foundation of hearing music, playing by ear, is I find it very, very important. Yeah. So talking now about some of the music your musical projects that you conduct right now. You were telling us about Papilio, which is it's a band. I think when you I don't know how many years have you been together, and if you want to tell us about the everything that the band covers.
Yeah, I guess we've been together about 10 years now. Anthony Rosesco is on fiddle and vocals, and I play my various flutes. And we had Phil Shepard on various guitar-like objects, and then he retired, and now we have Skip Holmes, and of course, well, we recorded a couple of albums and so on, and we played at folk festivals. We played at Celtic Colours and Stanfest and a bunch of other places. And we play for contra dances and ceilidhs and things like that. Now, mind you, for the past year, of course, live music is difficult to do. We've had the pleasure of pre-recording some concerts for online broadcast with like Music Royale and the Halifax Celtic Fest and so on. So that I'm really pleased to have that opportunity anyway, to get a little music out there. Yeah, we play stuff from all over the place, and we arrange it the way we like it. And this is just really a really wide variety of roots repertoire, basically. I have a wee little clip.
Yeah.
If our technology works for us. We tried it out before we started, so hopefully it works.
Let's share it. Yeah.
Now that we're doing the real thing here. So
I really appreciate that music, and especially that you've that's a little bit of our connection, that because you also take into a few tunes of Spanish music to interpret, and I find that really nice.
Well, it's been amazing that you've taught us some tunes, and we're just so pleased about that. And I have a clip for that later too. Hang on.
Yes.
Hang on here. Let's cross our fingers that this works.
Yeah.
This comes from the Halifax Celtic Fest. We were able to record this when the case numbers were very low in town.
That's back in January. Yeah.
It's back in January. Yeah. All right. Please do tell me if there's technical issues with this.
Yes, right.
Here we go. right. Hopefully you could hear the audio for that.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was really nice. Yeah. What was the name of that tune or set?
Yeah. There are two. Oh gosh, it was a while ago.
Put you in the spot. Sorry.
Two names right now. The second tune was the Cavers of Kirkcudbright, which looks like Kirkcudbright when you spell it out, but it's Kirkcudbright. It's in Scotland. It's a place in Scotland. And the first tune was also Scottish. And it'll come to me later.
Yeah,
it'll
no
come
worries.
to me like tomorrow.
No,
It'll come to me.
no, that's what happens. Yeah, the subconscious brain keeps like searching in, and yeah,
Miss
that's one.
I got it. Miss Sarah McFadden.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's good. That's
Sorry.
Good. Yeah. Fast and sharp. No, yes, for any, I mean, probably most of the audience may be familiar with the Scottish and Irish music and traditional Celtic music, and yeah, and this is how it works. That sometimes the traditional tunes are short, so what they do is they find tunes that are alike and then put them together in a set. So sometimes you have like 5 to plus minute sets. So that's really nice. Yeah. No,
And
we could see your.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we could see your flutes standing right next to you. So that's pretty cool.
Standing guard. And in recent years, I've been playing a lot more Scandinavian music too. I had a trip to Sweden and so on, and I have been playing with a local nickel harp player whose name is Kirsty Money, and we've been playing with Ellen Gibling on harp. Except we've been kind of held up with the pandemic, as you can imagine. Yeah. We kind of had our debut concert just before the pandemic started, and it's like, oh
yeah. Maybe at the end, maybe you can send me some of those links to Scandinavian music if you have any recordings. So I can add it to the text down so people can have. Because I find that really fascinating. Scandinavian, they have their own like music history, right? It's like a little separate from the Celtic. I'm pretty sure there's some connection somewhere.
It definitely is, yeah. Like all the flute players there often get started playing on Irish flutes, playing Irish tunes, but they translate their Scandinavian tunes onto it. Yeah, I have a video clip of Kirsty and Ellen and I, if you wish to see it, or later.
We can put it at the end. We can just towards the end. I can add the link onto that because it will be really interesting. And Ellen is a wonderful local harp player. I had the opportunity to prior to the pandemic. I had the opportunity to do a little gig with her, and it was fantastic. So sweet for the ear. The other thing that interests me about the Scandinavian music is their rhythmic patterns, right? Because they have all these strange.
They have polskas, so that's their main dance form. They have others too, but the polska, not polka, but polska, is their main dance form. And it is in 3/4 time, but it's not a waltz, and it's kind of more complicated than a waltz is. But it's some just amazing creativity coming out of Scandinavia, just in general. At their trad scene is very much alive and growing, and lots of composing people composing in that vein, but just new, fresh stuff all the time. It's just great.
And what's the name of that instrument? That instrument that they have that it looks like a hurly-durly, but they play with. See if I can find a.
I've got the video clip if you want to see it of Kirsty's. It's called a nickel harpa. It's a keyed violin.
And we have a local player.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Kirsty Money, she's amazing. Yeah, she only started it, I don't know, 8 years ago or so, and she's really good. Yeah.
I'm just trying to. Okay, no, nothing came up. Anyway, yeah, we'll share that at the end just to keep going because we have other a ton more information to. So we'll ask the audience to hang on And yeah, the surprise will come after. You just please stick with us. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about your like your active involvement with in music education, which you have been doing for a long time, and especially what started at home with your own kids that are terrific young musicians today. But yeah, but you somehow got them uh, to fall in love with music and to go along. It's been a pleasure to see them going along with you to local festivals like the Rejig Festival, and being part of the community of playing the music and also dancing. Uh, yeah, what a great joy to to add those values into your being a mother, and giving love and teaching new things to your kids, plus adding them to the whole education. And because you also teach music, and you're going to tell us a bit about that. But I wanted to start from home. Please tell us about that. Like, how do you get those you know your two kids involved into music, and how do you make that consistent? Because I may be following your steps.
Well, they were surrounded by it from a pretty young age, and I mean, they're adults now. My son is 20, and my daughter is 18, and my son plays the piano, and my daughter plays the harp. And yeah, we would go to music festivals together, and we jam in the household, and it was the sort of thing where you open doors for young people, and it's up to them to go in through the door if they choose to. And I wanted to be really careful about that, and not be like a high-powered music mom kind of thing, like, you got to do your practicing and all this kind of thing, right? I wanted them to feel the same kind of joy that I do in making music. It's all about joy, and if that joy isn't there, then I'm not going to force it on anybody. So it's just really making opportunities for them, and getting them good teachers if they're interested in pursuing something. Like Ellen actually teaches my daughter, and Alistair's had amazing piano teachers and so on. And he's even in university, he's continuing to play, and he plays organ at a local church and so on. So it's still a big part of his life, and got up to quite a high level with it and so on. Yeah, I think, like I say, just opening those doors, and not making it an imperative that they have to do something, but making it something that letting them see that it's something that they might be interested in. And if they feel the joy, then they'll participate in it. And if they don't, if they have some other means of self-expression, like if they're into art or sewing or
Yeah,
sports or whatever, okay, so that's for them. Whatever.
He's taking engineering now, right?
Yeah, he's studying engineering in university. Yeah.
So that's good. And I just want to make it, because music sometimes gets undervalued in our society. But how do you find, from your experience, which I'm totally for this, but how do you find that the your experience as a mom, that the music education was sort of like a discipline, like a fluent discipline tool to get your kids like to get them into sort of a routine, like what can you tell about this? I truly believe that, but yeah, what's your
Yeah.
experience on that?
Well, I mean, if they want to get musical results that they're proud of, then you put the effort into it. And there is this thing about making music together that's really quite special too. And there is, like, when you play music with other people, oxytocin and other sort of neurotransmitters get released in your system, and these are pleasure hormones. They are trusting hormones, and in some cases love hormones, but just this feeling of connection to other people. And you need to when you're playing music with other people, you are more aware of what they are doing and more aware of what you are doing and how to coordinate yourself to fit in with them. And you don't even have to know their names. You don't even have to know who they are, but you can find this sort of nonverbal connection with other people by making music with them. It can speak on you on so many different levels of your psyche. And it takes teamwork to work on some sort of little musical project together and to have, you know, results that kind of make you proud of it, you know, that kind of thing. And so it teaches all sorts of cooperation skills and working towards a common goal together, and because it's just something that you like to do, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is beautiful, and I think that's where, I mean, the saying that music is a universal language, it goes beyond being a metaphor. This is true, and in fact, one of my guests, my very first guest in the podcast, was a music therapist, a local music therapist, and she uses what she teaches. I mean, she uses music therapy to deal with patients with some sort of like disabilities. Well, and this is like an emerging field now, because with all the psychology and psychiatric like techniques to deal with some people that may be having some challenges. What did you do when the person cannot speak, or if it has some sort of like a speech impediment, so the person cannot speak back to you, but you can do that through music. And I think that just goes, but yeah, it's a very interesting it's a very interesting perspective when you're teaching in a group, or if you do like a drumming circle, or like what you're doing now that hopefully you're going to start telling us a little bit. When you're working with a group of musicians, and they're all different, like learning a tune or playing different instruments, but you're sort of like assembling the tune together. There's sort of like all those. All that magic that you just mentioned, magic slash science, is happening there, and I think that's yeah, that is I think that gives us the cue into your most recent entrepreneur like endeavor. Tell us about
Mhm.
your traditional and early music school.
Yeah. So, well, I've been teaching flute for a long time, but in recent years, I have also been setting up some ensemble programming. That's actually fairly unique, I guess, at least in Halifax. But it's modeled after various festivals that I have participated in the past. And what it is ensemble playing, either in a traditional music stream or an early music stream, depending on what you're interested in. And in the traditional music stream, we we the I am the instructor of the trad ensemble, we call ourselves, and my co-director is Anthony Rosesco from Papilio, and we like to explore musical traditions from all over the place. So, and we'll learn them by ear. We'll have sheet music to refer to in case we get stuck, but we learn them by ear. We learn the ornamentation. We'll explore Ireland and Scotland and Cape Breton and Galicia and Asturias and Quebec and Scandinavian countries and all sorts of things. And we'll get guest instructors in to share their music with us. So it's sort of an invitation to make cultural connections, really. And you were one of our invited guests. We were
Thank
very
you. No,
pleased.
appreciate
We
that.
were very pleased to have you teaching us Galician and Asturian music. And yeah, and then we select the favorite tunes out of the ones that we've been taught, and then we work them up into concert sets. We make arrangement decisions and so on, and then we perform them. And ordinarily we would perform them anywhere. We play at festivals and at the Central Library and all sorts of places. But of course, that's not possible right now. So we're making music videos. And same for the early music stream. So whatever it is that you play in the early music stream, if you want to play the harpsichord, or if you want to play recorders, you want to play baroque violin, you want to play cello, you want to play baroque flute, any of that kind of stuff. If you want to sing, we have some singers as well. I match players together in terms of their playing level and what might work together musically into little groups, like between 2 and 5 people in a group, and we'll set them up with repertoire for that combination. And then we get guest instructors that offer their specialized early music expertise that's suited for that particular combination. So if it's a vocal aria with a harpsichord and cello and violin accompaniment, for example, then we'll get a vocal coach with baroque expertise to do some coaching, or we'll have somebody show the harpsichord player how to read chord symbols in the baroque period, that kind of thing, figured bass and so on. So it's all kind of customized. And once again, we would ordinarily give concerts. At the moment, we've been making videos to post on our YouTube channel instead of concerts when it has been safe to do so with low case numbers in Nova Scotia. Right now, we're having a spike, so we're not meeting in person right now. But for most of the year, we've been able to safely meet in person very carefully. And so we do have some videos from that time. And we have the video from the tune that you taught us, if you would like to see it.
Yeah, it's just to be fun to see the whole experience happen. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let's do it. And over here, I added your the name of the taken from your Facebook profile, the Halifax Institute of Traditional and Early Music.
I can just a sec. We have a website. It's tradandearlymusic.ca all together.
Okay.
And hang on here. Make sure that I share the correct thing. And again, please do tell me if the audio doesn't come out. So here goes. This is Marcha Processional de Caldas de Reis. I hope I have pronounced that correctly.
Very good. Yeah, let's do it. There you go. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jen. That was nice.
Thank you for teaching it to us.
Thank you.
It
No,
was
this
really really fun putting that arrangement together too.
I really hope that that you and the students like liked it. You know, I found
Oh yeah.
there's so much. I mean, there's so much in the Galician and Asturian music. So much to share. I just find this one was kind of like a catchy tune, and I learned this one from a very famous um, uh, Galician band. It's called Milladoiro, and it was very famous in the 80s, 80s and 90s. But yeah, they just have like a they're in one of the most known encyclopedias of traditional music and working with all these arrangements, and it's just beautiful. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm sharing down here, guys, the link to the trad and early music um, tradition like institute, the Halifax Institute of Traditional and Early Music, trad and early music.ca.
It's a
Yeah.
mouthful. It's a mouthful. Sorry.
Oh yeah. No,
It's
it's
self-explanatory at least. So
oh yeah, of course. No, that's no. You got the key. And so I hope everybody was able to see a little bit of the work that you do, and I think yeah, they learned that in like no time. It was a very interesting like crowd of students. Great musicians. It's good that this is happening. Yeah. So also I wanted to in my podcast I also like to spice it up with either the connection of music and science, or arts and science, or in general with tech stuff. And I'm in the early stages of it, but I one of the things I liked about you is your most recent work in like at the House University. You did a master's degree that relates music with environmental science. Uh, Please tell us a little bit about that.
yeah. Well, that was a few years ago. When I hit my 40s, I went through a midlife crisis and decided to get a second master's degree. So I did it and I was interested, and I'm still interested in environmental issues, and leaving a proper environmental legacy for generations to come. And so when it came time to develop a thesis topic for a Master of Environmental Studies, I kind of created one for myself, music as a tool for environmental education and advocacy. And so this research, I wound up publishing 2 academic papers from it, one for an environmental education journal and the other one for a musicology journal. And it was based on interviews with musicians who had contributed tracks to a playlist called, or an album, a double album that was called the Playlist for the Planet, and it was released back in 2011, and these were people like Bruce Cockburn and David Miles and Danny Michel and people like that, and about 14 of the people who had contributed tracks to the album agreed to be interviewed by me. These were all songs that were on the theme of environmental issues. And so I asked them, if you're trying to bring that sort of a theme out through your music, how do you do it in a way that people will be receptive to? And also what role does your engagement with environmental issues play in your career, basically? Because a lot of them had advocated for or worked for or donated money to a lot of different environmental issues. Mm-hmm. And of course, many of them were touring around and so on, and terribly aware of the fact that flying has quite a bit of a carbon impact, and being not comfortable with that, and trying to design their professional lives in such a way that they could minimize their carbon footprint and minimize their environmental impact. and raise money for environmental causes and that sort of thing. So there's the sorts of insights that they gave me had a lot to do with kind of bringing a positive message forward through the art without hitting people over the head with it. Mm-hmm. And so it might involve, say, like in your show, you might have one or two songs that sort of have some sort of an environmental commentary to it, but it's all within a larger artistic context. That the art has to be good, first of all, and it needs to have some kind of a hook that draws people in, so they're voluntarily drawn in. They don't want to feel like they're being lectured to.
Yes.
And the message has to be brought to them in sort of a palatable way, such that they feel that they have understood it, and maybe might feel inspired to take action, or some sort of part of them that already wants to take action is inspired to, follow through on that. But not so forceful and not so preachy, such that they feel overwhelmed. Because if you just go on like information overload, then you just feel hopeless, right? So, yes. So it's like finding that really very fine point on the scale between a whole bunch of different factors, like positivity and negativity, and being critical, but being hopeful, and all that sort of thing. So just finding that really fine line where people will listen to you without turning you off. Mm-hmm. and then setting an example in your own personal and professional life. So if that means, trying to avoid flying and driving to your gigs, like designing your tours so that the places are closer together, so you can drive to them rather than fly, or you're encouraging people to carpool to your gigs, or you're you're getting your venue to source their energy sources from renewable energy, or they're printing their promotional material on recyclable paper, or whatever it is, or there's a certain percentage of the proceeds that are going to plant trees somewhere, or to save a river, or to mitigate climate impacts, or that sort of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a whole package to it, and it's really easy. I mean, when you go out there and you have this public platform, and you're vulnerable out there, and some sponsor might not like what you have to say, so you might be taking a risk that somebody pulls sponsorship from your tour or whatever, but if you feel strongly enough to take that risk, or just to pick sponsors that believe in the same causes that you do, and if you kind of go out there and try to lead by example, mm-hmm. To know how effective your messaging might be is really, really hard to tell. But
we should talk to Elon Musk about that. Get him to get Tesla involved. That wouldn't be a problem.
Anyway, it was a real pleasure and honor to talk to these people and do these interviews, and just kind of gain insights from their experiences and so on. So like I say, like Bruce Coburn's been at this for more than 40 years, and to talk to him was just amazing. And our own, here more locally, like Danny Miles, for example. Or David Miles, excuse me. Yeah. I had Danny Michel was also in my head at the time, and there were a number of actual environmental educators as well. Like Remy Rodden was doing environmental education for the Yukon territorial government, and so music education for young kids was his. Environmental education through music for young kids was his focus. Mm-hmm. So just a really interesting, different perspectives and different genres of music and so on as well. Yeah, and I graduated. When did I graduate? I was just part-time. I was still, still an active musician through all of that. But I graduated in 2016. So no regrets. It was a really interesting research area that really hadn't been explored in that way before. So it was really neat to be able to do something that was kind of unique.
Yeah, it's crazy how time passed by. I remember when you were engaged into that program, and even getting closer to your graduation, and you were really busy, and that seems to me like it was just like a couple of years ago, and it was already 2016. Yeah.
Anything that's before the pandemic is just a blur as far as I'm concerned. It's like pandemic, pre-pandemic.
Yes, yeah.
Whatever.
A new era. No, thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that that experience with us. Yeah, maybe if the are the papers available like publicly, or?
Yeah, you can go. Well, yeah. I mean, they are certainly. There's kind of two ways to go about it. If you are hooked up to a university library,
Yes.
Of course you can download them from there. But if you're not, you can go to my website. It's just jenniferpublicover.com, like all one word. And I have a finger in so many different pies. It's just crazy. So you find the tab that says my scholarly stuff, and you click on that, and you can see sort of a summary of what the papers were. And then if you want a copy, you can just contact me through my website, and I can just email it to you.
I was just trying to find it over here, but yeah, no, I'll put I'll share a link at the end of the episode, so people can, if there's some people interested in these papers like myself, like we can catch up on that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, now you were doing I think that the last trad ensemble. I mean, you did the one. I think we did it in February, I believe, and you did another one with Bebel and Andrew.
Yeah,
right. The Brazilian couple was beautiful.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. We've gotten Gina Burgess in for klezmer music. That's super fun. We've had Adam LeBlanc in for Acadian music. That's super fun.
Oh, nice.
And we've had in the past Wendy McIsaac, Cape Breton fiddle, like all kinds of stuff. It's a really wonderful way of just making connections to different cultures. It's one of the most positive ways of making connections between cultures, when you get acquainted with the music or the cuisine or it's just all really positive. And we had we did a really neat thing online this year. We had one class. It wasn't that we weren't actually learning tunes, but we had this presentation by Michael R. Denny, who's a Mi'kmaq a singer and composer and educator from Eskasoni in Cape Breton. And he gave us this amazing presentation on Mi'kmaq song and history and so on. It was just absolutely fascinating. And it was on Zoom, like he was up in Cape Breton and we Zoomed him in. And yeah, it's just really nice to make all these cultural connections.
Beautiful. No, yeah, and I know that last year the pandemic didn't stop you from organizing and making all these events happening. Now that we have the technology available, I'm sure you may have something on the go for the next little bit once we adapt. I know. So anything you want to share that is coming?
Anything that is coming that I want to share? Well, at the moment, we're back online. Up until just recently, the epidemiological numbers were favorable to us to have, these small rehearsals, physically distanced and so on, with the masks, just like you saw in the trad ensemble video there. And we made a bunch of videos during that time. There's still a little bit of repertoire to finish out for this year. We'll meet again to finish off those couple of pieces, in June or whenever it's safe again. But I'm super glad that we were able to get this big slew of videos out before this third wave. And I'm just so grateful for the way our public health has been managed here in Nova
Yes.
Scotia. We've been so fortunate compared to so many other places. I'm just really grateful for that.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, definitely, and I'm sure we'll catch up soon, and get everything controlled. Now, with you have two albums with Papilio, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, make sure at the end you share with me the links to that, so we can allow the audience to access to your music.
Mhm.
And are you working on in new material, new songs with Papilio?
Um, uh, we get together whenever we have been asked to do another concert taping, and that little bit of footage that you saw was from the Halifax Celtic Festival, a couple months ago. But of course, we can't meet in person right now because we're in the middle of a third wave. So, but yeah, in the summer there will be outdoor
Nice.
live gigs coming along. And also with this little Scandinavian group with Ellen and Kirsty,
Yeah,
it's hard to plan for specific dates until things kind of settle and more people get vaccinated and so on. So yeah.
absolutely. No, but so far we're doing good. So yeah, maybe if we want to if we want to close that, I think we can close the episode with that clip you've been talking about, because I'm
Oh,
yeah.
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
I'm sure everybody that is listening is kind of eager to. So what is this all about? Including myself. So yeah, while you pull that up, I mean, we'll do a little try to see if we get the audio working. But
Hmm.
yeah, I just wanted to say, ask if you well, to thank you again for joining me today. And if you want, if there's anything else, any message that you want to put out there, anything else that you want to say, uh, you can share that.
Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Marcel. Thank you for having me on your show. Um, and if if there are any St. Mary's students out there who next winter are interested in taking an Irish musical tradition course in the Faculty of Arts at St. Mary's University, I'm teaching that, as I did this year too. So
Yes.
that's another thing. It's another pie that I've got a finger in. But
Nice.
anyway.
What will
um,
be sort of like teaching briefly? What's kind of like the syllabus of the course, briefly?
it's basically a music history course, but of Irish traditional music. So actually, from like prehistorical times to the present day, and the harpers and the pipers and the various tragic events in Irish history that shaped the course of it, but also the wonderful positive things and the wonderful creativity that sprung out of this island nation. It was I learned this first term of me teaching it just this past winter. I'm sure I must have learned just as much as the students did, because it was it was a real pleasure. There's so many layers to that history, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. So yeah, well, now everything probably is going to be. What was it online?
It was online. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I taught on Zoom.
Well, everything's going to be. Well,
Yeah.
that's the new norm now. Technology
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
here with us. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So you have the do you have
Yeah.
sort of ready? Let's try it out.
I'll
And
I'll try to share that clip and we'll close out. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me on your podcast,
oh, it's been a
Marcel.
lot
It's
of fun and a
a
lot of
pleasure.
information. A lot of fun and a lot of information to have you. So thank you so much. And yeah, we'll keep in touch. Even if it's now digitally. Well, that's uh,
Hmm.
it's good to be it's good to be somewhat in somehow in yeah, connected. Yeah. So yeah, too
For
bad
sure.
that it's not yet. Too bad that it's not yet. The speed of the internet is not yet, so you could do like a live session
Yeah.
with people. Yeah, but I'm sure that will come.
Yeah.
That will
Yeah.
come soon.
They're starting to solve those latency issues. Anyway, all the best to you. And then I'll just put up this Scandinavian set. It's a polka from Denmark, followed by a polska from
Mhm.
Sweden, and you'll see the nickel harper there as well.
Awesome.
Okay,
Thank
here
you.
goes.
Good. All right. Thank you very much, Jen. Again, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I'll see you. I'll see you soon next time.
All right, take
Uh,
care.
all right. Have a good one. All right, everyone. Thank you so much to Jennifer Publicover. Stay tuned. I'm going to share some of the links to her work and academic papers, so for you to keep up with what's happening in music and also science world. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here today, and I look forward to see you guys again in another episode. Thank you so much for joining. Please feel free to subscribe, Marcela Mores channel on YouTube, and stay tuned for more episodes. Thank you. Thank you.